Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Social Shifters podcast. I am joined by Shona, co-founder of CDIAL and head of impact and policy. And she's here to talk about the wonderful project of Indigenous and, of course, being one of the winners of our Global Education Challenge for 2023. First of all, Shona, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be on the call with you, Jeremiah. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And again, congratulations as well on being
Thank you.
on the challenge. How did you react when you found out you're one of the winners?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question, and I'm glad that you asked that because, we had like an interview, with the panel, and it was like, I think for 3 minutes, we're meant to give an elevator pitch and all. And then like after I gave my, presentation, there was no question, like for like almost, I finished earlier than 3 minutes,
Oh,
first of
wow.
all. And then we had extra time, and then the judges did not really have question. And then I'm like, okay, what does that mean when you go for, an elevate a pitch and then you don't have judges asking you questions? Is it because they don't like your solution, or you were so good, and then you maybe answered all your questions? So there was so much uncertainty. I think towards the end, someone just felt, okay, we shouldn't let her go without or speaking or reacting. And then one person asked a question. And then I just thought, I've told the story. I told the story about what we do in with Indigenous, and I hope it resonated. So when I got the email, and I'm glad that Social Shifter was kind enough not to put us on suspense and not to allow us go for the holiday without, knowing the feedback. So I was so thrilled when I found out that, we had been selected, and it was really, it came at the time where we needed some validation concerning our product and our project. So it was really good. I felt super excited and super honored to end 2023 with that good news.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And thank you for your kind words and your pitch. I didn't have the privilege to sit in and watch, but it must have been really good to like have loads of questions coming back. So like, and for you to have time spare as well, because 3 minutes, like you must have really been sharp on with like the elevator pitch. Have you done like pitching before in front of?
So, Gemma, I'm really glad that you asked that question. And I really want to take a minute to shout out to the mentors that Social Shifters paired us with. So they organized like 3 free sessions with, some industry experts who like gave me several rehearsals. They were critical. They asked me questions. They were kind and at the same time critical. And I'm glad that we had that level of support. And, I'd done pitches before, but not under like 3 minutes. 3 minutes was a huge constraint. But I don't think I would have done great, to be honest, without receiving the mentorship that we got from, social shifters through this mentor. So really kudos to the mentors who really, helped me, listen to the pitch. I remember the first pitch, they're like, oh no, you have so much, you did well, but these are the things you need to work on. And over time my pitch got better. So I would really throw it back to the support the social shooters gave us in terms of the mentors. Yeah.
That's incredible. So do you we can give your mentors a shout out. What were the names of the mentors who worked with you?
Tamara and
Daniel,
Daniel. Got
Tamara and
it.
Daniel. Let's give a shout
Yeah.
out to Tamara and Daniel and that's exactly what you want. You want that kind of honest feedback and trying to help you refine and improve it. So no, that was lovely. Yeah, thanks, Tamara and Daniel. So what set you on your path as an entrepreneur, Shona? If you're a superhero, how would you tell your origin story? Like,
Well, that's a very interesting question, Gemma, and thanks a lot for asking. I think, I'm Shona Olalire, originally from Nigeria, from, Oyo State in Nigeria. And growing up in a country like Nigeria, seeing myriads of problem, everyone is constantly looking, to the president to solve whatever issue they're going through.
yeah,
It's as simple as like maybe one day you wake up in the morning and you can find water coming out of your tap.
Mm.
You don't blame anybody. The only person you blame is, oh, the president of Nigeria, is the reason for why I don't have water. And then I also come from a country, we have about 270 million people, 70% of them are youth. And most of them live under $2 a day.
Wow.
And it's just for me being raised in that kind of environment where I'm like, I grew up seeing problems, literally, raising these realities of people either blaming the president and people not being comfortable and realizing their full potential. And for me, it was just that awakening that what can I do, to help the situation? Because everyone keeps blaming one man, whatever, we have changes in terms of government, every 4 years or every 8 years, there's like a new president. We can't, the idea of trusting our development in the hands of a person was just always strange to me. And I just felt the need to begin to like create an impact wherever I was. And I remember growing up hearing a quote by President John F. Kennedy that says, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So constantly, I'm always on the lookout, whether it's through volunteering, or whatever, even when I was studying in Cyprus, I'm like, international students, what can we do in order to support the country? So that desire to not to see myself as a catalyst for development as was what set me up towards becoming a social entrepreneur. So I think that answers the question.
I love that, and I really like how you spoke almost about the accountability of like, hey, what can I do instead of just sitting back and looking at others or leadership in the government. So no, really, really cool. I really like that. And so like, can you talk to us about the impact of what you're doing right now of Indigenous? Like yeah, talk to us more about the problem that you're solving.
Okay, thanks a lot for the question, Jeremiah. Okay, so we started CDIAL, which is the social enterprise that runs and owns Indigenous, the project, because we discovered that about 40% of Africans have access to the internet, but only about 1% of our languages. We have over 2,000 plus languages in Africa. Only about 1% of these languages are represented in the internet. What this means is that, an average African cannot comfortably use digital technologies, right? And language is an important part of development. You see a country like France, you see a country like Germany, you see a country like China, their languages is an important part of their development. And for us, what got us interested in this issue with our project is we're trying to improve education in Nigeria. In Nigeria, there are over like 200 million people, 20% of, about like 20 million children in Nigeria are out of school,
Wow.
and that represents over 10% of the population. Now, of this 10% of the out of school population, 60% of this population are actually, girls like me. And I know growing up, I had females who would drop out of school because maybe their parents had relocated from the eastern part of Nigeria where they speak a particular language to the southern part, and they found it difficult to communicate in school because when they're teaching in schools in Nigeria, sometimes when the teacher is explaining something, they would want to use local languages. And if you're not from that region, then you can't fully gain access to good education or fully comprehend what the teacher is saying. So for me, it's that realization that why is it that our education system in Nigeria is just focused in English? Why is it that, and as a matter of fact, most people drop out of school because they don't understand the language of,
Hey.
of teaching. So it's like we're not trying to say with Indigenous, right? With our project, we're not trying to say English is not important, but
Yes.
we're trying to say that can we create tools in local languages that aid people's comprehension of whatever you're teaching in English. So what we did is Indigenous is available in three variants. The first one is a hardware. Keyboard has been in existence for so long,
Yeah.
but there's never, like, after like almost 2 decades of having more than like about 10 decades or so of having keyboard, we don't have a keyboard that allows Africans to type in their
Mm.
local languages. So we were able to bridge that gap by creating it's currently a patent pending product
Wow.
that infuses English and also about 100 plus African languages, so people can type in the local language and also in English. And also, it's also available as a software like an AI. Think about a chat GBT,
Yep.
but a chat GBT in local African languages,
Okay.
where, for example, you want to understand algebra, you can just go on the bot to say, explain algebra to me in my local language, and you're able to understand algebra in, the language that you're comfortable with. So with this project, we're really trying to address the out of school population in Nigeria, with teaching mathematics and digital literacy skills with technology.
That is amazing. I can see why there was no questions at the actual pitch because it hit so many different points. There's nowhere like usually you're thinking, is what's the addressable market or how important is this and big? But everything you're saying there speaks to how important it is, why it's an issue, it should be getting tackled and resolved, how you're doing it, use of tech and all these other things, the hardware, the software. Very, very cool. So, and then you spoke about AI as well. A lot of stuff there. So I'm just smiling because I'm very much into tech and I like AI and all of that fun stuff as well. So, how is like your team? How many of you are in the team?
That's a very interesting question. We have 5 full-time staff.
Nice.
And then we're supported by over 240 volunteers, who, helped us in building our technology. And I want to use this opportunity really to say kudos to our volunteers who have committed their time in reviewing and contributing their words. Sometimes we give them words to translate just to fine tune our technology. And they've been so generous, with their time, and they believed in us even when we had no funding from any funder. So I want to just say shout out to the volunteers, we call them the CDIAL tribe, who really support us in the work that we're doing. So we have 5 full-time staff, about 15 part-time staff that we use on a contract basis, but the 240 plus volunteers are really the backbone behind what we do at CDIAL.
That's incredible. I was wondering because I was going to ask you kind of like what's the split in terms of like who deals with like technology, who deals with like the different parts. And I'm like, first of all, shout out to volunteers for real. How did you even get 200 and plus volunteers? How did you find them?
Thanks a lot, Gemma. I think it's really incredible. We want to obviously grow that number, but I think, and I hope at some point I get to, speak more about this. Is this has always been a problem that everyone had seen, from, we recognize that there is a problem with the way we're treating languages in Africa. We
Mm.
recognize, even tech companies recognize that the solution is not having as much impact because it's not available in local languages, even like fintech companies in Africa. It's been there, but no one has been audacious enough to solve it. So I think for us, I would really own it to the vision that we had about the languages, and that most of the people had already recognized it as a problem, but no one was audacious enough to, stand. And I want to even shout out to, my other co-founder, Yinka and Soji. friends who came about and like, let's do this. And I'm so glad that we had, because we're friends, we had the support system and we're able to start out something that it was not about building a company for ourselves as much as solving a problem that has been there, but nobody was courageous enough to solve it. And having just that support system of friends, I think was what attracted people to be a part of us. And we have, because how the volunteer network works is that you choose a language that you're passionate about, and then you contribute like your data, your time to contribute data. If you're interested in technology as well, you can also contribute your time. And we have people, because there are different languages that we want that needs to be preserved and needs to be included in the digital ecosystem, that we don't have the specialties internally to the expertise internally to work on. And we have people reaching out to us by mail that, oh, you don't have these languages, can we contribute our time? So really, I would just say it's really the vision, like having a vision that is bigger than you would attract people. Yeah.
Yeah, that is incredible. Wow. What a story and testament to you and the team. And even as you said that, it's such a something you said that really resonated is when you said about even preserving certain languages, because there are certain language that's another thing sometimes people don't even think about. There's certain languages that need to be preserved digitally because of the population might be dwindling who's speaking that. So really, really special with what you're doing. So that's
Thank you.
pretty cool. No, I really, really, really like that. So like what has been the biggest challenge you faced to date whilst doing everything for Indigenous, and what have you learned from it?
Well, that's a really interesting question. The biggest challenge that we've faced is, and I'm grateful for social shifters, to be honest, and the mentorship that we got, is having this big vision and being able to communicate it. And especially like for us, it's like we're really in the social enterprises about AI and languages. And we know the possibilities that that can have across different sectors. So the biggest challenge for us was you're trying to do something new that people are not really used to, but you were not specific to what sector whenever you were telling people about it. So what the social shifter and most of the fundings that we got last year has helped us to do was to take out to keep the vision there, but think in terms of sectors.
Okay.
So you have Indigenous, what can Indigenous do in terms of education? You have Indigenous, what can Indigenous do in terms of health? So for us, the biggest challenge was breaking down that vision into specific sectors that we can easily measure impact, because just saying you're doing something related to AI and languages is too broad, and quantifying the impact is difficult. But when you take that vision and then you put it in a sector like education and out of school, then it's easy for you to communicate it and for people to understand what you're doing. So for us, it was basically explaining our vision and understanding and being able to communicate the impact that it was making. I think that was the biggest challenge. And as soon as we got into like social shifters and a couple of other fellowships that we've been a part of, it became easier for us to tell our story for specific sectors. And it became easier for us to attract the funding that we need or the support that we need to scale. Yes, I think communication, to be honest, would be the biggest challenge.
Oh well, so that's amazing. Really cool. I like how
I'm
you
sure you're probably surprised because I imagine that most people's first challenge would have been funding.
yeah, there's typically like I feel like people either say funding or finding the right people to work with. And obviously you have
Yeah.
like you said you had your friends and you got all these amazing volunteers. And yeah, I think usually those are the kind of the biggest issue. But so that's really cool. And I'm glad that the process has helped, you know?
Yeah, communication was the biggest, because once people understand your story, it becomes easy for them to buy into it, whether it's funders, whether it's volunteers, whether it's staff. But once you're doing something that people don't understand and you've not translated it in a language that they understand, then everything becomes difficult. So communication and being able to tell our story was the biggest challenge that we faced. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ironically, before we started recording, I was listening to a podcast from Stephen Bartlett, and he was talking about the power of storytelling and how he focused
Mhm.
everything on storytelling and social chain and what he's doing now with the Diary of a CEO and stuff like that. So it makes total sense. And you mentioned the word vision in when you were speaking a moment ago. And what is your vision? Where do you see this going? Because you're doing some incredible stuff, but where can you see this going in 5, 10 years or longer? Where would you like this to be?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeremiah, for the question. For us, we hope to become a social unicorn by 2030. And our goal is to empower 1 billion Africans with artificial intelligence multilingual systems, specifically for the education sector, which Social Shifters is supporting us with. By 2025, we want to reach, 300,000 students with our digital literacy and mathematics project. And I'm super excited because in 2024, we'll be reaching over 100,000 students through the project already, which makes the number 300,000 by 2025 very visible. So that's really our vision. Yeah.
You that response was clean. I love that. You just 100%. I can, like I said, I can see how you nailed your pitch and shout out one of your process. That was incredible. And that's an amazing vision. Over 1 billion people at that. Yeah, wow. I'm still trying to even. That's just so cool. Got me speechless even saying that. That was that's massive. No,
Thank you.
I can definitely see how you're gonna get there. Wow.
Thank you.
How long have you been working on this as a team?
We've been working on this since 2021.
Okay,
End of 2021, we started working on this.
amazing.
Yeah.
And were you thinking about AI even back then? So I know recently in the last year or so, people were thinking more about AI, but there were people who are into tech and stuff and known AI in different forms have been around for a long time. So were you thinking about like the use of AI even back at the start?
We were actually thinking about the use of AI, but it was not in terms of chat GB, like the way
Yeah.
chat GB like a chat, but we were always very big on machine learning from the
Yeah.
very beginning because we recognized the technology tools did not have African language included. So there
Yeah.
was need to train. We were very big on like training data sets, training our data set, training all of our data sets with African languages. So from the very beginning, and there was Google Translate when we started, and one of the issues we had with Google Translate, in as much as we respect all of the work that Google is doing in advancing technologies, that it lacked contextual definitions and interpretation of some of the African words and languages. So we always saw that as a problem, and being able to fix that data gap required a huge machine learning, which requires artificial intelligence. So from the very beginning, machine learning, artificial intelligence was always a part of what we're doing. Yeah.
Makes total sense. And I can actually see how you'll become a unicorn because throughout this whole process you've been speaking, I can thinking someone like a Google, a Meta, Amazon, someone would almost probably want to acquire you because, like you said, that whole gap, that data set is missing from a lot of them, and they've just got like mainly European languages and others like stuff like whereas that makes this huge massive gap and you're filling that and you're on the way to doing it. So I can see it and as such as most of these big organizations and more people are looking to invest across Africa as a whole, language, like you said, is key to unlocking any kind of that door from a business, education, health, and so forth. So super cool. I'll be definitely following along your story because I don't want to help in any way
Thank
I can. So this is very, yeah, very exciting. So Shona, with all the amazing things you've been doing, if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, your former self, back just before you all started this, what one piece of advice would you give to yourself before starting?
That's a very thoughtful and interesting question. So first of all, to my younger self, there are no, I'm grateful for my younger self. When I think about it in retrospect, there was no there are no regrets in my past, which is really good. But I think one thing that I would tell my younger self is don't wait till you get validation before you put in effort, and not only put in effort before you even intensify the effort in whatever vision you believe in. Don't wait, just do it. And doing it may be as simple as speaking to people about the vision of what you want to do, creating those relationships. um, because at the end of the day, when I think about what we're doing at CDAO, even with like partnership, because that's something else that I also focus on in CDAO, most of the things that I've done in my past that I thought were not related to CDAO, I got, relationships from there that is beneficial to what we're doing and sit out. So for me, I would just tell my younger self, don't wait till you get validation before putting in work into what you're doing, because when you start having like people contribute to what you're doing, you have investors or you have funders, you're, it's very easy for you to want to rush away from the background work that created, the technology. So I'm glad that, for example, we didn't wait for any funding before we built our technology. You get what I mean? Like, so I would just tell my younger self, intensify, the effort, even if you don't have any validation yet. Once you believe you have a solution that can impact the life of many of people. Yeah.
Amazing. Go hard or go home. No, I love that. So, um, if
Yeah.
if there's anyone listening to this or watching this at home and they would like to be able to support what you're doing for Indigenous and all the incredible things we've just heard, how is there any way they can get involved now to help?
Sure. Like, please, we want you to be a part of what we're doing. Like I said earlier, we like as a founder, it was never about building a company for ourselves, but building a structure and creating a vision that as many people who have been, passionate about the development of Africa feed can come under. So for us, it's way bigger than us. And if you want to be a part of what we're doing, whether it's contributing time or whether it's adopting a school, where we can, do a digital literacy project, you can just go on our website. It's www.cdial.com, and it's at CDIAL, AICDIAL, across Instagram, X, and LinkedIn as well. We'll be so happy to connect with you. And I'm Shona Olalere across all social media platforms. Feel free to reach out if you have any ideas, open to working with people and partnering. Yeah. Thank you.
No, wonderful. And I'm glad you put that last bit in there as well about your where they can find you online. We'll be sure to link everything in the description as well.
I would be very glad, if, people were listening to the podcast, if there is any question that you wished, we had asked and we didn't cover, I would create time to go through the comments, and answer them. So you can drop it on the comment when you listen to it, and I'll be glad to, respond to them. But I think you pretty much covered everything. Yeah.
You know, one thing you as you said that, I love that as well. And I love the fact you're going to jump into the community, the questions and stuff that you're dedicated. One thing that came to my mind is something that I see a lot of questions on. You found your founders as friends. How can you build a team? So there's two questions I always see. How do you kind of find good people to work with? And two, like how do you split people in terms of their skills and abilities and which parts of business to handle that? So
That's a very interesting question, and we can have a full podcast section, discussion about founders dynamics, especially like having founders who are your friends. It's really interesting. It's good, and there's also the bad side.
yeah.
But I think for us, so what had happened was I knew one of our founders was a friend, and then linked me up with his other friend, and then we came together, shared the vision, and as a person, I'm a bit of a one person. I love people, I love community. So I'm like, we should do the work. And then I'm also like I have a very strong work ethics. Like it's really
Hustler.
crazy. So like when it comes to work, I just feel like because I'm into the consulting field as well. And I'm like, if your clients trust you to do something, you just have to do it. And when you can't do it, it's just fair to just tell them you can't do it. So as a person, I don't like breaking people's hearts, I deliver when I say I'm going to deliver, and I expect that level of integrity with everybody that I work with. So having that personal value really helps set expectation, and it's like we know when it's time for us to work, but also we have because we are built it based on friendship. Like we want the best for each other. We want to attend your weddings. We want to we want to be, if you're going through something, be able to call us and be like, oh, Shona, this is what I'm going through. So we have that friendship, but we also really understand when there are deliverables. And if you can't meet up with the deliverables, it's just good habits, to just say, I can't meet up. So I think for us is recognizing we're friends, but not cutting slacks when it comes to the deliverables. Like I'm not the CEO. We have a CEO who's the founder, and I'm able to say you need to do this because there is a vision ahead of us. And I think having a vision that is bigger than you, and because we're trying to do something that is not just about increasing our pocket as much as increasing the lives of people, it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
So I would say it's vision, creating genuineness of like friendship among being genuinely, and that's what life would be. Altruism is very important.
So,
Being a genuinely kind person, it really helps, and managing expectations is really helpful. Like if you're delaying on a document, I'll be like, okay, what's going on? Tell me when to expect this so I don't have to follow up with you multiple times. So just being clear on the expectation really, really helps. It's been fun. And at the end of the day, sometimes we have we have back and forth mails, we have emails and
really,
banters where
yeah.
things go sour and like we're trying to call each other to other, but there's just always that piece that, okay, even though the tone of this email may not be right, this person, because he's my friend, I know that, this co-founder did not deliberately mean to hurt me. It
Yes.
just keeps me going that, oh, we have a vision, even though he said it this way, he didn't say it this way because he wanted to hurt me. And I'm being a female founder, there's also like we females and our emotions. So that is also there. But
Yeah.
recognizing that it's not just about an attack for me, but it's passion for the vision that allowed him to do what he did really helps. So that's a whole bunch of stuff, but I hope someone finds that helpful.
That's been super helpful, and I really appreciate your time, Shona, and telling the story so wonderfully. And again, congratulations to you and the team. And I'm sure everyone watching and listening will be keeping a keen eye and looking to get in touch to see how they can support because it's brilliant what you're doing. So thank you for your time, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Gemma. I'm grateful for the social shifters. Thanks a lot for the thoughtful questions as well. And thanks for all the incredible work you're doing as well. And it was a pleasure being here with you. I really enjoyed hanging out with you today.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more about social shifters and how we can help you to impact the social or environmental issues that matter to you most, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find us on Instagram and Spotify.